It's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings the bell and the members show to the GMP morning show. Featured guests will come and they will blow your mind. The audience will do so in kind. The little vanity mixed with some insanity on the morning show with GMP.
Good morning, Portugal, and I'd like to welcome you to another fantastic day.
Hey, Gumpers.
Hola, bon dia, alegria. Munson here with the Good Morning Portugal show, live stream and podcast. How are you today? How was your weekend? Do let us know in the chat. Andy had a busy one, cycling from, within the Bairrada region up to Aveiro, and that wonderful, I don't know what the place is called. There's a factory that makes a lot of porcelain up that way. It's just south of Aveiro. He'll tell you more about that in just a moment. We've got a couple of clips from Andy's very busy cycling weekend. Who's in this morning already, and who wants to tell us about their weekend? Oh, Paul's here. Paul Richards, good morning to you in the Algarve. Paul, how are you? Owen's in as well as T-Duck with some cracking dad jokes this morning. I want to share one with you before you have your breakfast this morning. Let's just start with an early dad joke. It is Diarrhea Awareness Week, of course, and it runs from Monday to Friday. Nice early one snuck in there. A Hugo Nuno, a Portuguese saying, and a deep thought. Ursula K. Le Guin keeps coming at us with some deep thinking. She's here again this morning, courtesy of T-Duck. James is in, of course, and will be here from 9 with a bit of mindful migration. And he's joined at 9:30 by Bob and Viv as well, those expat celebrities from the north of Portugal will also be with us talking about their experience of living in the north, coming over to Portugal, and telling us about their new, they are featured in our new Days in the Bay section of our website. So excited to tell you more about that. And also an update about Liz, the Caldash crooner, a bit of a shocker at the weekend. It was nearly the shortest podcast ever for Les. I'll tell you more about that in just a moment. Andy Klein's in. Oh, that's nice. Attended the Strong Beers Festival in Coimbra. Can we have a small review there? Oh, you've given us one. Great fun. What about the beer, Andy? How was it? Baddie's in as well this morning. Fantastic. And Francis, bon dia alegria a todos. Hope you're all good. Glad to be here. So let's have a quick look at Andy's cycling exploits over the weekend. By Andy, this is. I've also got a beautiful sunset that I'll close out with from Anna. Thank you very much. We loved your sunset, Anna, last week that you sent to us from VRSA in the Algarve, and also a beautiful nighttime. It's like a very moody little movie that Carlos has sent us from North Dakota as well. So we'll go out with those later on. But that's miles away, hours away nearly, at around 10 o'clock this morning. Oh, and this evening, of course, it's the gardening Q&A. Do join us for that. If you're thinking about, me and Mrs. Emma in the garden quite a lot over the weekend and managed to tidy up a bit. I've built a penthouse apartment for Jimmy Choo as well. So we're in the garden and getting that springtime feeling when we're thinking about growing things and composting and just being out in the garden more. First barbecue of the year as well for us. That was really nice. So yeah, if you're thinking about getting in the garden yourself and getting out and growing, which is basically the name of what we do, Get Out and Grow Show, which is a gardening Q&A under the leadership of Head Gardener McGrady, then join us tonight at 6:15 for one of those. And I'm reminded as well that given that it's the 23rd of January, and I never say that, do I? Welcome to the Good Morning Portugal show on this, the 23rd of January, 2023. It's 23-1-23. The numerologists will love that this morning, won't they? But coming up to the first Monday of February, we need a wine club ninjas. What are we doing for the first Monday of February? Let's pick a wine, shall we? And have some fun talking about it and hanging out as the wine ninjas on the Good Morning Portugal Food and Wine Club. Any suggestions for that? Gratefully received in chat. If you've enjoyed a Portuguese wine recently, especially with a nice pairing of cheese or a Portuguese dish, do let us know. And we could feature that on the first Monday of February, which is, what will that be? That's the 5th, I believe, the 5th of February for the next wine club outing. Anyway, let's get thirsty first with a cycle ride with by Randy over the weekend. Let's go first to that place south of Aveiro, whose name escapes me now. But Andy will tell you all about it.
Hello, bon dia. Here we are at the Vista Alegre Bridge. It's a wooden bridge. It's quite cool. All planks of wood. And there's where they make all the plates and pottery, crockery. You can go in there, have a lesson, and they show you how to make it all. Very good, very posh. And that's area down to Iliavo. Ciao bello.
Not far from Iliavo, the posh porcelain production facility there that you can go to and have a go at throwing a pot yourself. Maybe like the scene from Ghost, you can strip down to the waist and have your partner spoon in behind you and throw something together. Smash that like button. Bit chesty. I'm feeling that a bit this morning, funny enough, Deagle. Bit chesty. Off to the doctors, a flare up in the asthma last week. Cold really bites into your chest. Yeah, and the damp, right? Lots of asthma sufferers struggling this weekend. Wow. What's this? He changed his name as well since he's been on this morning. In US, it's 123.23. Typical. Still looks good though, doesn't it? That 123.23. What does that sound like? CB radio. This is a 123.23. Deagle earlier on said his weather report from Belfast. Thank you for that, James. See you in a while. Bon dia, Carl and Gumpers, from a damp but very cold, very mild. Nice. Sorry, so it's very damp but not very cold. It's a bon dia, Carl and Gumpers, from a damp but very nice, mild Belfast. It went from -2 to a balmy 9 degrees yesterday. Very good. 123.23. Another way of putting it as well. It has a ring to it, for sure. If you like the numerology stuff, tell me what the significance of that might be. Yeah, made up of 1s and 2s and 3s this morning. Seems quite basic and primal, doesn't it? Let's see what else is being said before we play Andy's next video. Gumpers, bon dia todos. It's Monday, so it must be child wrangling day. Doing the grand parental duties. Well done, Coach Turner. It's still sub-zero. And thank you as well for your video over the weekend. I'll make sure that gets out to everybody during this week. And you say there's lots of room for smutty innuendo. I can't wait. Here, it's sub-zero in Hertfordshire in the UK, but the sun will be shining later, so not all bad. Enjoy your day. And talking of days, yes, Coach Turner up for doing a day in the Bay. More about that to follow later on in the program. But when he's over in Portugal, we can get together with the coach in real life, and he can check your posture and have a really good look at your squat. God score tip of the day then from him. There was a fascinating TV program on last night about successful as opposed to disgraceful aging around the world. Yeah, just in case you are quite new to this community and you're thinking, God squad tip of the day, what's that? It is easier to enter the kingdom of heaven when you've lost a bit of weight or something like that. No, it's not. It's nothing to do necessarily. It does get biblical, but not necessarily to do with the Bible. And these are growing old disgracefully tips of the day. That's what the GOD stands for here. So there we go. You now know. Oh, come on, Mouse, help me out here. Oh, funny. Mouse is playing up a bit this morning. But anyway, this fascinating TV program on last night about successful as opposed to disgraceful aging around the world. It highlighted 3 themes. Oh, that's better. I need a mouse mat. Hey, maybe that's a new GMP line of merchandise, the mouse mat as well. Do people still use mouse mats, or have mice's got better in recent times? I imagine that's a sort of content where people will be saying, yes, no, I always use a mouse mat, got to use a mouse mat. So hold on a minute. Let's go back to Coach Turner's God Squad tip of the day here. It highlight how many times did I distract myself during the reading of 2 simple sentences then? I think at least 3. It highlighted 3 themes: community, activity, and diet. Well, I think we rank quite highly then. And at least 2 of those, who knew? Gumpers are creating communities all over Portugal. Hopefully some of my tips can encourage more physical activity, while diet is all around eating more fresh plant-based foods. The latest guidance suggests that a wide variety of fruit, vegetables, nuts, and seeds is the best way to create a healthy gut. 30 different plant-based foods each week. See what you can fit in. And it's quite interesting as well, isn't it, that when you look at the supermarket, although there seems to be a lot in there, there's a lot of breadth, width, but maybe not so much depth. We focused down the types of food we have, haven't we? So the potato varieties, there might be 2, maybe 3 potato varieties, when in fact, in nature, there are hundreds. of different types of potato. And what tends to end up in a supermarket is that which can be easily transported or have value added to it. So we don't necessarily get the bounty of nature, do we? We get the bounty of the marketing and production departments on there. On this same program, says Coach Turner, they visited Nagoya in Japan, which had been one of the unhealthiest cities. Sorry, I was thinking. I see the word Japan. And I think that's going to be a bit like this Southern European diet. It's going to be held up as a beacon, an icon of healthy living. But no, Nagoya in Japan had become one of the unhealthiest cities. By actively educating the population, it has become the healthiest. That's quite the turnaround, isn't it? In Nagoya, well done, the people of Nagoya. And I think you need a compliant society as well, don't you, to pull something like that off. I'm just guessing that Japanese people might be a bit better disposed to following sane leadership. Not that that's very often very common around the world, is it, sane leadership? But I wonder what the dynamics of that were in Japan. I just get the feeling that Japanese people might once encouraged to do something and inspired by elders and leaders might go ahead and do it. And maybe that's not the same all around the world. What do you think? James, bom dia, Gumpers. Feliz segunda todos. Como estão? I'm going to fire that back right at him when he joins me around 9 o'clock. Bom dia, great Gumpers from a T-Duck. And the deep thought from Ursula K. Le Guin this morning. There are no right answers to wrong questions. Yes, keep the quality of your questions up, please. High quality questions only here this morning. Thank you very much for that, Ursula, via T-Duck. Portuguese saying, cabeça que não tem juízo, quem o paga e o corpo. Head that has no sense pays for it is the body. A forgetful head makes a weary pair of heels. But also I'm thinking that a head that has no sense, it's the body that pays for an unintelligent head, is it not? Following on from what the coach has been saying this morning. Thank you very much for that. I might run that past James as well, see what he thinks of that. Who knew? If you go to the beach in Portugal, you may find someone selling borscht de Berlin, one of my favorites, a Berliner donut with a twist. In Germany, they usually have a jam filling. However, in Portugal, they have a yellow custard instead. It's very traditional to have one on the beach. It is. It's like the beignet aux pommes in France, isn't it? Talking of other parts of Europe, Germany and France as we are this morning, don't forget to join Europe's biggest phone-in, eye-wateringly big phone-in from 9:30 as well, when Bob, Viv, James and whoever wants to call in will be with us from 9:30. We'll have an extended version. Now, Uncle Frank and I, Frank's on Friday. Oh, and tomorrow we've got Bruce Joffe from Portugal Living magazine as well. So that'll be fun tomorrow. But on Friday, Frank joins us for a bit of Feel Good Friday, Frankie feeling fun on Friday, Sexta-feira. Definitely putting the sex into Sexta-feira when Frank joins us. And we will extend the phone in because we're keen to further riff on this theme of the East meeting West. He and I are both the products of the East. He's European by dint of being here in Europe and loves Europe, of course, and spent much time in Europe and now lives here, but is of Eastern extraction, like half of me of Eastern extraction. And we want to investigate that. It's a little bit like, who is it, those two? Ewan McGregor and his pal. Maybe we'll do an actual road trip from the west to the east and recover our ancestral tracks one of these days. That'll be fun. But we'll be talking about it in an extended manner, extended conversation on Friday, really looking at how we feel a little bit of an injustice, really, about how the East is portrayed within the Western consciousness. So that'll be an interesting conversation. Not judgmental, not from my part anyway. Maybe from Frank. I don't know. We'll see. But it'll be an interesting conversation, I can assure you, with my expanded view of what Europe is. Which is growing and a journey that I'm really enjoying, and Frank's no-nonsense perspective on it, and his occasional ire about how the East is poorly presented in a stereotypical and prejudiced way through the eyes of the Western media and culture. So it should be an interesting conversation on Friday. Come back to those other dad jokes then. Thank you for those. First class again there. Oh, quick visual dad joke then from oh, no, actually, James can do this when he arrives himself or be responsible for it on screen. Another, I think from the Star Trek franchise. We shall see. We'll come back to that. And Baddy's in as well this morning. What's happening with you, Baddy? Bon dia alegria from a sunny but freezing Saya this morning. I wonder, maybe that's where the cheese, the Saya cheese that you'll see in the supermarkets here, gets its unique character from. The cold weather, those cows out there producing the milk. Is it a dairy cheese actually, Baddy? Let me know. Is it a mixed one of those mistura cheeses, queijos, here in Portugal? Thank you for being here, Baddy. Keep warm. And how's your water boiler? Did you get that sorted out? And I'm not sure we ever found out. Greetings from a sunny but cold 3 degrees. Algarve, are we heading for the winter of 1954 when snow covered the Algarve? Where were you then? I was still in Baghdad, me. What about you, Paul? The winter of 1954 when snow covered the Algarve. Isn't that amazing? Talk about climate change. Hola, bon dia, or a change in the climate at least. Hola, bon dia, uma ótima semana todos. Thank you, Owen, for your greeting this week. I think I've had a few climate people slapping their foreheads with a comment I just made. Let's just see what happens there, shall we? Yes, how was that beer festival, Andy? I wonder if you'll tell us more about that later on. And bon dia alegria, todos. Hope you're all good from France. Are you working and a lurking today? It's mouse pad. And yes, I always use one. I have one made of cork and made in Portugal. Of course you do. I thought that might elicit a response or two. Charlie Borman is Ewan's mate. Maybe then it's going to be Carly and Ewan who will be frank on this occasion. I don't think I've ever driven a motorbike or ridden one. What do you say? Pilot a motorbike? I've been on a moped once and pillion on the back of a motorbike once. I'm going to have to train if we're going to do that on motorbikes, but the whole family's going to have to come with us. So actually it'll be a camper van, won't it? My mouse pad doesn't work no matter how much I slide my fingers on it. What? Is that like a nerd dad joke? My mouse pad doesn't work no matter how much I slide my fingers on it. Okay, we'll come back to you on that. I'm making the beer fest. Oh, and excellent. That's going to be a video. For you, our expat journey will be featuring that beer festival. But I could call in today. Please do, Andy. That would be fantastic. Call in later on and give us a bit of a report on that. 913-590-303. Let's go to Avela, actually, near to where you are. And yeah, that'd be fantastic, Andy, if you want to do that later on. And let's watch the next installment of Andy as he's made it to Aveiro now. Thank you, Andy, for this and what you've been up to at the weekend. What's everyone else been up to the weekend? I changed the Hoover bag.
So here we are in Aveiro, on the Bridge of Ribbons. Used to be the Bridge of Locks. Then they had to take it down and rebuild it. Got the market here today. Here's one of the Mulsileiros. Boats coming up. Used to get the seaweed with these, but now it's mainly for tourists. I'm with Todd today. Poor old Nando's in the hospital. We wish him well. Ciao, Bellas.
Yes, absolutely. Add to that, by Randy, that your pal is in hospital. I hope he's okay. Lots of love from the Gumper community. Can you please pass that on? And he may look at you quizzically. Gumpers, what's that? Anyway, from the Good Morning Portugal community, lots of love to your pal who's in hospital and couldn't join you on that bicycle ride yesterday. Andy Klein asking, by Andy, that was you I saw yesterday. Imagine that, being in the country for a few days and being recognized by somebody whizzing past you on a bicycle. I think it was by Andy there on his bike yesterday, who made it up to Ilhavo and Aveiro yesterday. Excellent stuff. Thank you, by Randy, for those. I wonder, are there any other videos I can show you? Oh, no, the other ones are of the sunset and the night in North Dakota, which is fantastic. So thank you very much for that. Oh, yeah, Les. We have, of course, featuring the Kaldash crooner, 90-year-old Les, who has been singing a song for everybody on Facebook once a week on his daughter Sally's Facebook timeline. I don't think Fred. I keep wanting to call him Fred, and I did this to his face. It's Les. I don't know why. I've just hardwired that into my own head. Rhymes with Fred. Les, the 90-year-old Kaldash crooner, who sings and has been doing so on his daughter's timeline, Sally. And so I thought last week, let's make sure that Les gets a bigger audience around the world, and certainly that's beginning to happen. So the numbers are clocking up over on our YouTube channel, where Les has his own um, playlist, basically. And he was singing an Al Martino classic, Here in My Heart, last week. And we'll keep, as he sings them each week, we'll add them to that, and we'll play a few of the, we'll spin a few of the oldies in there that he's been doing for the last couple of years as well. It's an amazing service that he provides. And over the weekend, Les was out having a great time. I think Sally organised a big do of the Portuguese restaurant called Portuguesa. That's the reason why I mention it as a Portuguese restaurant, because of course there are a lot of Portuguese restaurants in Portugal. This one is called Portuguesa, and it's a kind of a coach trip affair where Portuguese people love to rock up, I've noticed, at a restaurant by the coach load. And I imagine that's a really good business model for the restaurateurs who can cope with it, who encourage it, of course, because your regular cafe is going to struggle when 60 people turn up and want to be fed all in one go. But some, especially where in Bairrada, where Andy comes from, as you'll have seen in the past, the suckling pig restaurants, they specialize in coaches turning up and parking up on the IC2 there. Everyone piles out, queues up outside. We're ready for you now. They go in, they have their food and come back out again and go home and probably sing on the way home. Actually, Les could sing on the coaches as well, couldn't he, if he wanted to? Anyway, Les is out on Saturday night at the Portuguesa restaurant on the outskirts of Caldas de Rainha. And what he loves to do, and we noticed this because we hung out with Les at a communal birthday party at Kate's house back in the summer last year. And he came along because he joined in as well because it was his birthday. And he was singing and dancing with all the ladies. And he was doing the same on Saturday night. And he danced so much on this last Saturday evening that he fainted and had to go to hospital. And later on, he made a full recovery and was back in his apartment, his house, singing to himself, filling up his hot water bottle and heading to bed in the early hours of the morning. What a legend at 90 years of age. And in the morning, laughing and joking with Sally, saying, wow, yeah, that would have been the shortest podcast in history with just one episode there. Started the day before. Well done, Les, on such legendary behavior. Out eating, singing and dancing with the ladies, fainting, and then back into bed with your hot water bottle on the early hours of Sunday morning, causing your daughter Sally quite the scare, I think. But looking forward to your next song in the coming week. And you can subscribe to Les's podcast on the Good Morning Portugal podcast. You'll find that via our website on the homepage. And of course, on our YouTube channel, find Les's playlist as well, which we will keep adding to. You legend, sir. Lee McGrady is here, head gardener McGrady. Good morning, people. I've already mentioned it, Lee, gardening podcast tonight. And I have a video from that birthday party. Yes, of Les. You were there, of course, T-Duck, weren't you? Dancing with all the ladies. What an amazing fella he is. What an example to us all. By Randy, you were the topic of much speculation as we walked to the mall to buy cookware. Living the dream. There you are, minding your own business. Was that before or after the beer festival? I think it might have been the day after, right? Maybe a slightly sore head after the strong beer festival in Coimbra. Minding your own business, buying a bit of cookware, Tupperware, whatever, in that lovely shopping mall in Aveiro. And then some maniac flies by on a motorcycle with a maniacal laugh. Whoa, Andy. And frightens the living bejeebers out of you. It was by Andy. In hindsight, he says, I wish I'd stopped and introduced myself, but I was in the zone, man. So there he was. There he was gone, basically, flashing past you. A shout out to you, Lee, from Stephen Wells, who's in this morning. How are you doing, Stephen? Lovely to see you here. And I just want to show you very quickly before James joins us, Days in the Bay that I mentioned, and of course, a couple of news stories. Let's do the news first, shall we? Go to the news desk. Some interesting things up there, including, yes, Les was my prompt this morning. There he is, the news story about making Les a star. Let's make Les a star. That's on our news page. And the item above that is a new Ayurveda creating balance workshop for the Silver Coast. Our friend Nancy, who is also a star of Days in the Bay. I'll tell you a bit more about that in just a moment. If you're interested in Ayurveda, If you don't know what it is, even you might like to have a look at nancymedwell.com to find out more about Ayurveda. Establishing practice of self-care and daily routines, a nice complement to the God Squad tips of the day here to keep us balanced, nourished, vibrant, and able to be fully present for what life offers. These practices are essential to sharing our best selves each day. So there you go, a lovely addition to life on the Silver Coast here, or maybe travel here one day and hang out with Nancy and learn those things with her. I'll draw your attention to the top right of the screen and 3 news items showcasing the best in Portugal, which I might have a quick look at now. The International Award for Boom. The Boom Festival has scooped a Green Festival Award. It's quite amazing what they do. They're not just a festival, but how they make sure that not a trace of their appearance there is left, and also what they invest into the environment thereafter. I think everything, it's not like Glastonbury, which is a field of debris and old tents and human waste. All the human waste from Boom, I think, gets composted, and trees are planted, and all of their waste products are returned to nature in a very responsible way. So that's a great news article, International Award for Boom. And there's also a Working in Portugal guide that's been launched and is showcased on the PortugalResident.com as well. So thank you to Michael. Is it Michael Brugia who wrote that one? Available in 7 languages. So no excuse there, at least for the people who can speak those 7 languages, in finding out how to work in Portugal. There's a guide now available. So showcasing the best in Portugal. Are you seeing what I'm seeing? No, you're not. Okay, let me just change the screen so that you can see this rather interesting picture that I can see when it comes to showcasing the best in Portugal, and an article from the Portugal News. Here we go. Let's bring it onto the screen for you. What's this lady doing here? A new online marketplace has been launched as a platform to showcase products exclusively made in Portugal. Developed by AICEP. Yes, that AICEP. The new marketplace is available at Portugal Fora. I thought I was going to say Portugal Forum or Portugal Focus. Be careful with that. That's Portugal for Us, FORUS.com. That could be US or us, as in the collective we. And who doesn't like a collective we first thing in the morning? Actually, not me. And has been created to specifically target the US market. The United States is already one of the largest markets for the Portuguese fashion and home decor industries, with continuous growth in all product segments. There you go, Andy. Cookware included, I'm sure. Clothing, footwear, home design and decor, home textiles, bedding, dinnerware, and many more, states AICEP. Got to find out what that means, haven't we? Portugal for Us marketplace. Is it Portugal for Us or Portugal for US? Maybe both. Gives Portuguese companies the agility to scale and grow in the US market in today's evolving e-commerce environment. In a world defined by technological disruption and global e-commerce trends, Portugal for Us helps Portuguese brands future-proof their products, collections, and services. Well, that's a great idea, isn't it? No comments yet. I do like a comment on the Portugal News, but nothing about that yet. Probably be somebody moaning there later on, won't there? Saying, all the products going to America. Businesses want to stop plastic packaging ban. Imagine they do. A moment of truth for Portuguese footwear in USA. Wonder what moment of truth that is. We can't go there. We've got to bring James onto the screen. And real estate investment expected to continue to grow. Other headlines from the Portugal News. America, as well as Americans betting on Portugal, and praise for success of Portuguese companies in US. All related articles to the one I've just read with you. I like that. And a lot of ladies with underwear on. Oh my God, what is that? Scrolling away from that quickly, you can look, if you really want to, you could go back and find out what that is on the replay. Honestly, Google ads, what are you like? So there you go. Oh, I need one of these to clear the atmosphere after that. Let's play his theme tune, shall we? Because he's ready to listen, caller. He is, of course, the Fraser of this community, with some mindful migration on a Monday morning. And we'll be joined by Bob and Viv a little bit later on. Bob's limbering up as well. So let's find his theme tune, shall we? And enjoy some of that guitar music that has become synonymous with the slug, with James Holley, who I'm trying to, I'm making some time here so I can find his video. I need to do that no further, because here he is. He'll be after this.
Bom dia. Can you hear
Bom
me?
dia. Sim, muito bem, obrigado. How are you? Como estás?
Muito bem. Obrigado. E tu?
I'm reminding every Monday, you've got to write that book. What do you do after you've said, how are you? we can
De
do
onde
it.
é?
Say
De
again?
onde é?
De
De
onde
onde é?
Yeah, what does that mean? De
Where are
onde
you
é?
from?
Oh, I see. Londres, Inglaterra.
Ah, muito
Contigo?
bem.
E você?
Você? Em Portugal?
E tu?
Não, vos.
Vos, ok. E tu?
Ou tu,
Sim.
amigos, tu, sim.
Is everyone else feeling as uncomfortable as
Sou
James?
dos Estados Unidos.
Sodos, what?
I learned that watching
Oh, of
World
course, yeah.
Cup. Estados
Yes.
Unidos. So I was
Estados
struggling with the tongue twister of "Sou dos Estados Unidos." It was like the announcer on the match, because US was playing, just kept saying "Estados Unidos, Estados Unidos, Estados Unidos," and I said, "What is that? Is he saying Estados Unidos?" It's like, yes.
I know it is.
It's much easier to say Estados Unidos than over Estados
Yes.
Unidos.
Easy for you to say. Now you know what it is. And I just want to say bless I want to say bless you and pass you a hanky each time you say that. A bit like I saw somebody on social media over the weekend wishing everybody a kongi fa choi, and because of course it was Chinese New Year, and I put bless you, and I think she meant I think she thought I meant, oh, that's really thoughtful, bless you. I was just making the same some jokes just don't work, do they, once they're written down? But definitely
cross language, cross culture humor.
Yeah, exactly.
Can be,
I was stretching it there, wasn't I? But a kongi fa choi to everybody. And I don't know if anybody honoured the Chinese New Year over this weekend. If you did, I hope you had a great time. And lots of and we're given lots of red things, because it's all about the red. I think at this time of year, the red packets and probably red food that most foreigners are used to eating when it comes to going to a Chinese restaurant. James, so you're well, we've established, at least in Portuguese. How was your weekend?
Sim. Let's see. I have to think back on weekends, because pretty much my whole life is a weekend.
Yes.
Which I am. Every time I get to say it, I just go, yeah, I love it. So Sundays are generally dedicated, basically 30 or 40 minutes worth of shopping in a 6-hour day. So Sundays are usually pretty well taken up on the shopping. And it's fun. I get to spend time with Sidonio and Luisa as we go from place to place to place. And it's very relaxing. So Sunday part of the weekend is usually errand day, because unlike me, they get to work every day. So they have their weekends to get their stuff done. And let's see, I guess otherwise it was pretty windy and cold and rain moving in and out. So I didn't get out. So it was pretty much stay at home, try and stay as warm as I can in inclement weather.
Yes.
Yes. And the weather changes so fast. I mean, it's just all of a sudden it's that beautiful blue clear sky and it's 2 degrees. It's like, wow, what happened? Boom.
Yes. And then it goes very cold at night as well, doesn't it?
Yes. Yeah. It got down to 2 in Ericeira yesterday. I mean, last night. I think it's up to a balmy 5 now. So outside, I managed to get my studio up to, what am I at, about 15. So I'm nice and warm.
Wow. Living the dream. Okay. I totally get it. And I think that's why we're not overwhelmed by what people have been up to at the weekend, generally speaking, because it is one long weekend, and good for you, everybody who's living like that at the moment. James, I have a favor to ask of you. Could you zip up your hoodie just a little? It's not that I don't want you to get cold. Well, I don't want you to get cold.
Is your microphone rubbing on the zip?
Yes, rubbing on there. Who doesn't like a little bit of rubbing first thing in the morning? Not in that department necessarily. So Jess is here. Hello, everyone, and good morning to you. Victoria also here. Connie's in as well. Bon dia, Carl, James, and
Yeah.
that must mean that Antonio is here as well. Bon dia, todos.
Antonio, bon dia. Say bon dia to everybody.
Keep it going. Keep it going. Bon dia, todos from Michael. Cool morning in, says Imbra this morning. Update: 7 bags of plastic removed from the beach, and it's getting harder to fill a bag. More thank yous from community. He gets a round of applause when he walks on the beach, and adulation. Maybe they think it's community service for doing something bad.
I don't want you to miss the good news in that. It's getting harder to fill the bags. That's good news. I mean, there's less and less trash on the beach.
We need that in Portuguese. As a Portuguese saying, it's getting harder to fill the bags. Life is good when it's harder to fill the bags, everybody. And this, of course, our campaign. Gumper's doing it on the beach. There's Michael. And that's when, that is Sisimbra. That's where he's finding it hard. So basically, we need another appeal for people to take more rubbish to the beach for him to pick up. Is that right?
Well,
did I throw you there?
I don't think that's the implication.
Don't stop what you are doing. Do not head to the beach with more garbage.
I think the goal is to get to, it's impossible to put anything in a bag anymore.
Yes. Okay, that's our sweet spot then, isn't it? It's when Michael is walking up and down. He's had the same empty bag in his pocket for 3 weeks.
Where's the garbage?
Cobwebs, and actually, the greatest thing would be for it to biodegrade in his own pocket. Those biodegradable bags that he was talking about. So be careful. That will be the marker. You'll just have little fragments of biodegradable plastic bag dust in your pocket one day if this continues in the way it's going. Well done, Michael, and thank you for launching 1,000 ships of that kind along the coast of Portugal as well. Not literally, of course. Thank you very much, Michael. Lots of carnivals in Portugal coming up. Check out the map for a few. Go to that Gumper map. I will make sure that the link is there for that for you there by Andy. Thank you for your excellent work, and I will put the link to it now. Please take a look at this actually while you're listening. When James and I start chatting, it's quite it's more on the audio than the visual. I'm not saying we've got faces for radio, but I'm just saying it would be a nice compliment. If you want to look at something else while we're talking, take a look at the Gumperverse and the particular part of the Gumperverse that is the map that I have put into the chat right now. Let's see who else is here with us this morning. Connie and Hank, how are you doing up there in Porto? PT Country Bear is here as well. I tried Donde on the Uber driver. She had no idea what I said. It's really pronounced Dionde. Is that right? Dionde.
Or maybe a slight little hiccup with that last de, but yes. Dionde.
Dionde. Dionde. And bon dia, ladies, from Antonio F. working the room. And he is helping you, Country Bear, Marcus. You might also get a donde, compressed words, just like, yes, Estados Unidos for America.
Yes.
Okay. You were going to add something there to the donde.
Well, if I had read that, I would have said dionde, but it might be donde. Which is, like if it's donde, then it's Spanish. Then we're into Spanish. So I think it's how do you write how things sound? That's a big challenge for me because I'm all about how do things sound. So asking a question in text, how do you make that sound? It's very tricky. I think Antonio's intention was dionde.
I think we need a phonetic emoji, don't we? So you don't have to write that every single time.
Apparently linguists have this whole annotation. It's a whole written way of how if you read this symbol, this is the sound it makes. So you can assign that to text, but that's like learning a whole other written language.
Exactly. You've got to learn another language to understand this language. Because come on.
That's why I love my human Portuguese friends who can just say it for me and I can listen and copy it.
As opposed to your non-human Portuguese friends.
That's right.
Might be trees, I guess.
And the translators on the various sites.
Indeed. Yes, they are your Portuguese friend, everybody. Rugby Colin is having a quick listen before yoga. Check you out. That's a nice bit of physical fitness virtue signaling there. I'm just popping in before I'm on my way to my yoga there. See you. Now you will
Go soon.
yeah, can't stop. Off to my yoga. Now, Rugby Colin will be going to the music quiz with James on Wednesday. And we've got a bit
And Nuno.
And Nuno as well. We've got a little bit of a
Yes.
on Wednesday. A couple of the these an Eri Seren. It's like it's sounding like a joke. An Eri Seren and a Lish Boeta, a rugby playing yoga fan, and me go into a bar on Wednesday to do a music quiz. And I'm hoping we will do better this time than we did with the Christmas music quiz. That won't be difficult.
And the bartender says, "What is this? Some kind of joke?"
Thank you. We said we worked on that before the show. That was perfect.
It's an old standby.
Okay, you've always got material waiting just in case, just in case there's a dull moment. Carpe Diem, building a new life in Portugal. See what a bon dia todos. And there's that link to the Gumper map. Please check it out. And please add something yourself. It's such a fantastic resource. It's had a couple of thousand views already, and it is an incredible resource for all of us here in Portugal, including Portuguese people, actually, who might even get into the habit of publicizing events. You never know. Yes, Carnival de Bairrada. Bairrada's Carnival is one of the most famous. Now, where is that? Is that all across the region, Antonio and Bairrandi? Or is that the one that they tend to have at Cantanhede there, that expert Cantanhede? Tell us more if you will. Andy Klein, episode 21 is now up about visiting some people in Porto last week. Episode 22 will be about the Strong Beers Festival. And 22 will be about attending the Silver Coast meetup. If cool with God, absolutely. You're leaning against an open door here. That's fantastic. Make sure you're here if you want to appear in that video. When Andy films that, so we can maybe have outside broadcast and video filmmaker at that particular meetup, which I think will be in the next couple of weeks. That's fantastic, Andy. Looking forward. I think is it this Wednesday or next Wednesday when you're coming? Do let us know, then people can get to meet
Notify the paparazzi. Get them all out there.
Yes, let's just crowd it out with the great and the good of San Martino de Porto for that one. So he is the Fraser of migration. He's James Holley. He's on your screen now. Any mindful migration questions? And of course, what's on your mind? It's this week, by the way, that Andy's coming. See you on Wednesday, mate. So what have you been thinking about mindful migration?
I got to thinking about some of the changes between when I first arrived and where I am now a year plus later. And I got to thinking about this notion of decompression that I talked about last November. Who was it that it was? I'm trying to remember. I want to give credit to the people who remind me. Karen and Christina at the Porto meetup back in November shared with me we were talking about this notion of decompression, this idea of not the baggage per se, it's not the psycho-emotional stuff necessarily, it's more a way of being that we bring with us to this new place. Okay. And some of the more the less conscious things are things I've shared in the past about feeling like I'm always in a hurry, even though it wasn't suited to my personality. It was the culture that I came from. So I arrived here in Portugal and it's like, oh, I gotta get there. And that took me a little while to slow down and say, wait a minute, where am I going? There's no rush. I've got no place that I need to be other than here right now. So let's be here and enjoy it and witness what's going on around us. So that's an example of what I mean by the decompression is making that internal personal adjustment to your new location. And as part of that, I don't think I addressed this. There was this feeling of I'm on vacation. I got to get it all done right now because I got to go back. That feeling, when you're on vacation, I have 2 weeks, 2 weeks to get it all, boom, boom, boom. Because then I got to go back. And it took me a little while to get to, I had to keep telling myself, you're not going back. Your vacation has started and will last as long as you choose it to last. So that that it's associated with the rushing, but it's also this sense that it's going to end, this feeling that, oh, this is going to end when we've made well, in my case, a permanent move. I think many of our community are long-term or permanent new immigrants to the country. So there's this sense of I'm going back that you can let go of. It's reminding me of a old hair client that I had years ago. He was an attorney in Santa Cruz, and he was one of those guys who was just always busy. Even when he talked to someone, everything is, and so he would typically arrive, 2 minutes late because he's a very on-time person, and he was like, and he'd get in and he'd just come sit down, and he'd be working while I'm cutting his hair, but he'd be talking and working at the same time, just really frenetic. And we got to talking. For some reason, we started talking about. Now I'm forgetting the author's name. Very famous anyway, who wrote Be Here Now. And
Ram Dass.
And yeah, no, I don't think so. It was German. What's his?
Oh, The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle.
Yeah. It's The Power of Now. Yes, and the notion of be here now, and he just, without even thinking, he wasn't trying to make a joke. He stopped for a moment. He kind of looked up at me and he said, my wife's been trying to tell me about all that be here now stuff, but I'm too busy for that. I'll be here now later.
I love that.
So it's been a joke for me ever since. I'll be here now later. It just cracks me up.
Yes.
So and it's relevant to what I'm saying about this, especially from the U.S. I think many developed nations have this now, unfortunately, this feeling of having to get somewhere all the time. And it may have come from Ram Dass at some point. I don't know. I was getting it from Eckhart Tolle.
Yes, who doesn't like a Ram Dass first thing in the morning? Oh, not me.
That one hurt.
Right. Ram Dass, let's clarify this, because Ram Dass with C. Leary, I think, was about that. Ram Dass definitely wrote a book, Be Here Now, didn't he? And that was
okay. Maybe that was the title. Yeah.
Academia to psychedelia, or mix them up. But then, of course, Eckhart Tolle did write The Power of Now, I think, which of course is a riffing on the same theme, isn't it? But I love that, and we all do it, don't we? We've got that, we've got our marker there with your attorney, who I loved you sort of looking at you, coming into the moment briefly to say, I don't have time to do that right now. But the funny thing is, the reason why it's funny, I think, is because we all do it, don't we? At some time or other. That is the human nature in so many ways, and he's just a very extreme version of it, and a very honest and authentic version of it, right? To own it completely like that is wonderful.
And it was great because it was very spontaneous. It wasn't intended to be humorous. It was just how he was and how he is, and a reflection of how busy he was. And he was doing amazing things. He was actually advocating for special needs kids in schools. But he was and unfortunately, given that was the nature of his work, he was very busy, not too unlike the bags at the beaches, try not to fill them. He was a very busy guy doing what he was doing. But it was a fun moment, and one of those things that's stuck with me. He probably has no memory whatsoever of it, but for me, it's a lifelong, tagline I can throw onto things.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
And that's
so with this,
then, is it? Or an illustration.
Pardon me?
This is an illustration of one of these decompression ideas, because I do really like this. We're not going full on, I think you referred to it as psycho-emotional, deep baggage stuff. These are just the habits of a lifetime which we're bringing across with us, that we might, in a moment of greater consciousness or awareness, notice about ourselves. That if we are aware of it, and we can maybe let it go a little bit, it might make our quality of life a little bit more enjoyable.
Yeah, and I whether we're conscious or not, I think because we're in a new culture and we're being exposed to the way of life here, we will probably eventually assimilate into it. So you don't have to be conscious about it, but that's pretty much how I live my life. I'll notice these things. And it's like, do I want to feel the notice? Choose that. Do I want to feel this way? No. What's my choice? Slow down. You know, in the US, often it didn't feel very much like this client, like I didn't have the space to slow down. Like, no, I have to do this, and then I have to do this, I have to do this. But that's not the case here. So when I noticed, and I could make a different choice about feeling rushed, remember I'm not rushing, and choose to relax and be patient and enjoy and find humor in the joke I've made about standing in the aisle with someone trying to decide which of the 17 ketchups they wanted to buy, you know, that kind of thing. It's like, okay, where am I going? It's fine. You know, I'll wait. I'm also aware that there are regional location differences. I'm guessing in the major cities, major business areas, it might be more typical to US rush kind of feel, but I'm not there. I'm in Ericeira, and Ericeira is an international surf location, and the energy, I think because of that, or maybe that's what drew it, is pretty laid back, right? You don't get a sense of rushing, except the worst I see it is on the roads, which is also true in the United States. So that didn't surprise me too much. People honking, or I need to get past you, or, you know, on the 2-lane road, they finally can pass, and they go by like you are going at a snail's pace, and they need to go, you know, 300 kilometers an hour. So, okay, have fun, be safe.
Yes.
Hope I don't see you crashed on the side of the road in a minute. But yeah, so there is, it does exist. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm just saying it's much more relaxed, especially for me personally in the location I'm in. And I think that's true of many of us, even if they're in the larger city areas.
So
I think
maybe
the pace
we
is
can
slower
ask
than we're used to.
Absolutely right. I mean,
We certainly can,
a supreme example, isn't it? Pace of life. That certainly is something, because the awareness, the consciousness is part of it, I think. But what you seem to be saying is context is equally, or maybe the other half of it. Because without coming to Portugal, you might not notice that about yourself. I mean, the attorney had his hairdresser to give him that insight in the context of the chair that he was in. But you might keep living like that, mightn't you, and not even question it without the relief or shift of context. And these are the subtle things we're talking about this morning that James is bringing to our attention here. The decompression, and it's such a good word to use. And when you mentioned it to me yesterday when we were chatting, it comes from the diving world as well, doesn't it? One version of decompression. You know, you need to come to the surface slowly, otherwise. Yes, the oxygen goes in your joints or something and gives you terrible pain. Now, it's a subtle thing which the first divers must have found out to their cost. And perhaps we can extend that analogy here. You know, the migrants will tell you this, won't they? And I think you do. You know, to take this slowly, as much as you would want to be free of all your old baggage very quickly, and as much as you might want to decompress very quickly, so you can get on with your imagined new life. This perhaps should be a slow process, right? Or is it necessarily a slow process, James? Because
I think it depends on the individual, but I love the analogy, because whether it's fast or it's slow, you still have to decompress, right? You're going to experience, in the literal case of diving, the pain of not decompressing. So at some level, you're going to experience the discomfort of not decompressing in a new environment, you know, whatever level that might be. This former client of mine might not even notice. I mean, he looked at me with total surprise and wondered what I was laughing about. So,
I love it.
What's so funny? It's like, what you just said, man. It's hilarious. I had to explain it to him. And he said,
in the ear with your scissors. You know, you've got to be careful turning around like that in the hairdresser, haven't you?
So I think it's up to the individual. I think probably the slowest is when it's not conscious. You know, that would be a very slow process of gradually slowing down. Yeah. I don't think that it's unhealthy to do it faster or slower. I just think it's unlike, that's where the diving analogy breaks down a little bit, is that you don't experience, I don't think you experience anything particularly unhealthy except for the stress of always being in a rush. That could be unhealthy. So getting over that fast might actually be a good thing. So put yourself in the decompression chamber and work that baby, get it
And allow
down.
these, and allow these. I mean, we're really mixing the metaphor now, but you know, see what comes to the surface. That's another part of it, isn't it? Because I think it's really true that you don't always know what's going to come up as a result of being in the supermarket, stuck in traffic, walking down the street. Any number of things in the new culture might give you an insight into some of these decompression matters or moments, experiences that go on. You may well have more, James, and can you tell us those before we go to Michael's question here, which is a great one? Have you had any idea of how many Gumpers came expecting to come for life and left because it didn't fit? That's a bigger question and one we return to from time to time. But before we move on from decompression and address that, what other little things might people notice to do with their
well, the two pieces that I felt were important to add, and this is what came up with Karen and Christina. Not the first one. The first one occurred to me when I realized that I could finally afford to live. And it was this sense in the US anyway, and I don't know how present it is in other places in the world, but there's this very common way of thinking that we're one illness away from homelessness, meaning that the cost of healthcare, you can't work, so you can't make an income. The cost of the healthcare is so expensive that you have to mortgage or sell your house in order to be taken care of. There's this feeling of insecurity that just sits inside of you constantly. It's not conscious per se, but there's this tension of this thinking of I'm just one illness away from homelessness, that I think people who have the benefit of a national health care system, especially one that works, even if they have complaints about it, they don't have to worry that if they get ill, they're going to have to sell their home, and not have any place to live. So I realized that when I after about a year, I looked at what my cost of living was in relation to my income, and I was able to really look at it. And for me, it was the first time in my life that I wasn't just barely making it every single month. And some months I wasn't making, and some months I could actually buy a coffee, that kind of thing. And I really came to appreciate the difference between not enough and enough, which could be just a very, very small gap, but it's a huge sense of relief when you're at enough. So if you exceed enough, it's even better. And for me, being in Portugal, I crossed that line. I got into that place where there wasn't this sense of being one illness away from homelessness. It really occurred to me that not only am I able to afford it, but the healthcare system that I have available to me that could potentially in the United States make me homeless, that won't happen here because the healthcare system will take care of me, and it may cost me some money, but it's not going to cost me a house. And that was a huge, decompression.
But that thought is enough to make you ill, isn't it? And then lose your house as a result of it's insane. It's insane. But anyway,
Yes.
we're not necessarily talking about that this morning. I think everyone can see the madness of such a system. But what a lovely thing to be able to break even plus, not just financially, because when you have that realization, that's a break even plus of the mind as well as the wallet, isn't it? How lovely.
Yes, a tremendous relief that I didn't even know was a weight I was carrying. Sometimes you don't realize how heavy something is until you put it down.
Absolutely
or you're not carrying it anymore.
Yes, well said.
Oh wow, I can float now. I didn't realize how much that was holding me down. And I don't think it was unique to me. I think it's pretty common, especially for Americans and other cultures that have this way of being. I think it's unique to the United States in many ways because, as I understand it, the United States is one of maybe three, maybe they're the only one developed nations in the world that doesn't have a national healthcare plan. So I think it becomes more unique in addition to the cost of living. So that was one that I added. But what Karen and Christina brought up that I really wanted to address was this sense of feeling safe, and particularly the sense of feeling safe for women who have the unique disadvantage of at least feeling more vulnerable to potential violence against them. And they were addressing, they said, well, we heard that, we were talking about this and we heard that Portugal was safe and that, but being here is like, can we trust that? And if we do, what kind of danger might we be in? And I think in general, for all of us, a sense of safety is something that all of us, at least again from the United States, that's my only experience. So there's certain places you're going to avoid. There's certain ways of living that you're not going to be out after dark in an isolated area. I wouldn't recommend that in the big cities in Portugal either. But in general, almost anywhere that's not very specific neighborhoods in potentially more violent areas, just because violent crime is very, very low in Portugal. So the likelihood is greatly reduced. Yeah. But the sense of safety, in Ericeira, it didn't take me long, but of course I'm male, so I had less of this sense of having to look over my shoulder or making sure I was paying attention to every person on the street. I already had less of that, but I would feel absolutely safe walking down the middle of Ericeira at 1 a.m. I wouldn't even think about potential danger to me or harm to me.
Yeah.
And I think that's also true for women. I don't think it's unique to our sex, at least in Ericeira and some of the smaller villas. It may be true. I can only speak of my own experience, but having that conversation felt important to me. And particularly, you talked about hypervigilance last week, and I imagine, well, I know from my work, that when women have been traumatized, particularly with violence against them, there is a hypervigilance that becomes a part of their sense of survival. That, I have to pay attention because I don't want to get into that situation again. So it would probably be much more difficult to decompress from that. And I imagine very similar to the sense of not being one illness away from homelessness, the sense of, oh, I'm safe here. As long as I'm smart, I'll be okay. I don't have to be hyper vigilant. I just have to make sure, be aware of where I am. I don't want to be in a bad side of a metropolitan area late at night alone, so how do I prevent that? I think that's common sense for almost anywhere. So I really want to address that as well. That could take some time, particularly if someone's been traumatized. And trauma in that regard isn't unique to just women. Obviously, men have been assaulted. They've also experienced violence against them. I just think that women are more vulnerable in those types of situations, so they might be more hypervigilant. So being able to breathe through that, to be able to, be approaching midnight as you're at a club having a beer or whatever and enjoying yourself, and then you're going to leave and you have to walk home. You don't have to go, you don't have to be afraid that something bad is going to happen if you walk 3 or 4 or 5, 6 blocks to where you need to be. Mm-hmm. And that is probably the most extreme end of the decompression is the fear of violence. I think it's wrong to have a sense that there's no crime in Portugal. There is, but it's also safe. The crime tends to be theft and burglary. Those seem to be the biggest things. Crime can also be, breaking traffic laws. I mean, that's crime. Anything is breaking a law. But it's not violent crime. People aren't getting shot. People generally aren't getting mugged. Although I know that one of our community had a purse stolen on the street down in the Algarve. So that was a traumatic experience too. But I think the fact that Portuguese especially are just astounded. A while back, one person got shot and the whole country was just like, how could that happen? I mean, they were just shocked that one person got shot. In the United States, there are 15, 16 people getting shot minimum every single day.
Yes.
So we've gotten this sort of, so someone else, it's not casual, but it's not shocking. It's just so common. So I think, again, that's good news. That's the empty bag on the beach. Portugal is so not that we can relax into it. And that's essentially what I had to say. So Victoria's entry is perfect here.
Yep, you're hitting the nail on the head with the healthcare fear, almost like adrenaline fatigue. Being in Portugal is like one long mental hug. Isn't that fantastic?
Yes, I love that. Yes, the big embrace.
there's some lovely comments, and we'll continue that question that you asked, Michael. When we've brought our other guests on this morning, it's the wonderful Bob and Viv. And there they are, joining us from the north of Portugal. Folks, how are you?
Morning.
How are you doing?
Cold. Actually, we're warm inside, but it's
cold up here.
It's 0 outside. It's chilly. We had to cover plants the last couple nights.
Okay, wow, terrible place up in the north there. They're doing this on purpose. It's actually really nice up there this morning, but they're doing this new kind of propaganda to stop people moving there. That's going on.
Yeah.
If you don't like cold, don't come.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Their first "Don't Come to the North" warning this morning. Oh, great to see you both. We had a lovely webinar with you last week. And that's available on our YouTube channel about authentic, honest, and deep relationships. Basically, it was a lovely conversation for those that were there, and I'm sure people are enjoying catching up with that as well. And you are part of our Days in the Bay. James is as well. He's not listed yet, but let me just share something with you, everybody, because this is really, I think it's a great idea. And this
it's
is
your idea, Carl. Of course, it's a great idea.
Even if I say so myself.
Maybe especially.
All right. This is one of my especially good ideas, I would say that. Okay. Come spend some quality time in delightful San Martino de Porto in the company of passionate expert and fellow foreigners for a day of learning, socializing, wining and dining. And that kind of wining is not that you get in some expat groups. It's the wining that involves drinking wine, not whinging. So wining
not with the H, yeah.
No H in that. We don't. Well, you can do a little bit, but we'll step in at some point.
No H in my wine, please.
Yes, hold the H. Choose from a range of subjects as featured below. And this is not by any means a full faculty, as you see on the screen, but lots of people are being asked and are coming forward. So you'll be sport for choice when it comes to choosing accommodation and restaurants here when you come and stay. Most of the seminars, workshops and gatherings will take place on a Saturday. So check in on Friday maybe for a long weekend or just come for that day. And look, so far we've got Bob and Viv, authentic, honest and loving relationships. Fun and filthy poetry with John Brand. That'll be a lot of fun with the Yorkshire poet who spent a lot of time in Massachusetts as well teaching. Nancy, who I mentioned earlier on in the show, with Ayurveda creating balance. Mrs. M is going to make sense of your journey with astrology. James, you have also offered, have you not, to be part of this Days in the Bay? And I think a mindful migration hangout with you would be a lot of fun. So thank you.
Yes, and I would love to hear what people would be interested in as well.
Good idea.
There's a lot of things I could talk about, but if people have specific interests, please let me know, either here in the community or at the forum. James Zaliman.
Great idea.
I'd have to spell it out.
That's your Jamaican sounding moniker over there on the Expats Portugal.
Yes.
Okay, so do let us know. It's like a meetup on steroids, really, isn't it? Where you're going to hang out and really spend some quality time with people and have fun learning about something new and hang out with some of the people that you see on a regular basis here on the Good Morning Portugal show, Bob and Viv included. So how have you been since we last saw you, and what's been on your mind?
Oh, it's been great. We had a good week, busy week, and then we started off last night with a Chinese New Year's party and had lots of really good Asian food. We can all cook Chinese. We didn't know it, but we can.
Hong Fa Choi to you then. Well done.
Yeah, it was great.
It was fantastic.
Yeah.
Our friend Karen that put it all together, Karen and Andrews at their house. And actually they're from San Francisco Bay Area, James. But anyway, she had decorations out. She looked up the individual like rabbit and the zodiac signs for the Chinese calendar and had that out so everybody could read up on it. And it was fun. But yeah.
We started there, and then we've got stuff to do today, tomorrow, Wednesday. And we'll go from there.
Yeah.
Okay. Continuing to live the dream in the north. Did you say it's the year of the rabbit this year?
It is.
It is.
Yes.
What does that mean? What did you glean from that? Is it going to be lots more children born? Because people
We have lots of rabbits at the party, so we're going, and how many children do you have? It doesn't seem to have any correlation.
It doesn't. No.
So far, yeah.
We're visiting with one couple last night. They're both rabbits, and they only had 2 kids. They said.
He said apparently we're a failure in the rabbit community.
Brilliant. You are a very good morning to the North's most loving couple, Bob and Viv from Owen this morning. And we'll come back to this really good question from Michael Whitby, because I think we can help with this. We have really good company this morning to help with this. Have you any idea of how many jumpers came expecting to come for life and left because it didn't fit? We'll return to that. Speaking of rushing and driving, I highly recommend the book Traffic by Tom Vanderbilt. It's about the psychology of driving. Thank you, Andy Klein, for this. You'll never drive the same after reading it. It's a good book, isn't it, that stays in your mind like that. I think
don't read it while you're driving.
Yes, good point. Well said. I think people think their lives will slow down. Their lives will slow down, but want builders, plumbers, etc., to still go at a pace. You may have something to say on this, all of you. James first, then. That's a fair comment, isn't it? You want your own life to slow down, but when someone's building your house, you want them to crack on a bit.
Yeah, that's a great point. It hadn't occurred to me, but the notion that I can slow down, but I still the part of the decompression that would be helpful to occur in that is to also understand that you're slowing down because the culture is slower. So to expect the culture to react at the same pace that the one you came out of is pretty unreasonable. I understand the frustration, especially when your house is not livable and you want to have a livable place. I mean, you want it to hurry, but yeah.
What about you, Bob, on this? I mean, I'm sure you've got some good advice to give here on how you've adjusted to the pace of life. How's it been for you two?
Well, we were just talking about that and thinking about even the Bay thing. James was talking earlier about the Power of Now, Tolley's book, Power of Now. When that was first introduced to me, I thought I could not connect at all. It flat out did not compute. And I learned a lot in the next 10 years about all of that, which is part of what brought us together. But yeah, the concept, I can see Carpe Diem, they are building a place, and I can really see that issue. But we came to accept the culture and live in the culture. We came with that expectation. And so when the plumber's coming tomorrow to fix a leak that's soaking down the side of the house and coming into the lower level, and he doesn't come tomorrow or the next day, but he's still coming, and we love the guy. He's fantastic. He's great. But it was like, well, we just won't use that bathroom until he gets here.
That's brilliant.
We don't have to use that one, so we're lucky that way.
Yeah, so we just stopped using it until he got here. You can't always do that, but we also came from, I spent all my life until Portugal, where the ground froze 1 to 2 meters deep and pipes froze either under the ground or under the house or in the wall. And so it's just a total adjustment. Here it's much easier to do a workaround, but particularly with farming and construction, I did workarounds all my life. So it is what it is, but it is this culture. And
I think it's a notion you have to get over, because when you come, you think, well, I'm going to slow down because I'm retired or whatever. But you don't expect the people who live here and work here to slow down. So once you get over expecting them to work like people do in other parts of the world, just work and work and work and work, and realize it's a good thing, it all gets so much easier.
It does.
So if you just come with that expectation that everything's slower there, and it is, and it's delightful. But we had to adjust to retirement and moving at the same time, which was, it was a lot.
That was, from a relationship standpoint, we were talking about that, and maybe with the Bay for others to do the same. But yeah, we did adjust to retirement and moving all at the exact same time. So that
it was some big adjustments, but it was good. We did it. We have tools now to get through that period and not lose your mind and end up hating your spouse. But it's all good. It wasn't that bad for us, but we've seen other people really struggle with it because suddenly you're together all the time, and it's like, I don't know about this. You know, you need go do something. And
so perhaps that is one of the things that Michael's talking about there. One of the surprises for people is being together with your partner, spouse, all the time, and the implications that might bring. We don't know how many. It was a big shock to me, Michael, when the first people revealed to me that they were leaving, that I'd become. But, obviously it's their life. I don't mean that in any kind of bad or judgmental way on them. I thought, because I was here and enjoying it, that they were as well, and it made me and Mrs. M double down on what we might do for people to address the very things that we talk about on a Monday morning here, and to sort of take them seriously and not ignore them. Not sure about numbers, but you may have other things to add to this, Bob, Viv, and James as well this morning. And we're also getting other comments coming in that are very interesting too, as you might expect. But first, we need to go over the murders in Portugal thing. There are about 80 murders a year in Portugal, in a population of 10 million, and only some of them are firearms. Of course, that's 80 too many. But it does tell you something, doesn't it, about the quality of life in Portugal. Children here are raised without fear of others. That in itself is a beautiful thing. Not to say that no bad things can happen, but for the vast majority here, they are safe. Isn't that a lovely thing? Thank you, Fiona, for that. Last weekend, there were 4 mass shootings in the US, more than 25 people killed and dozens injured. Horrible to hear. Police are the cause of many of those. Yes, it's a wound, isn't it, that we're opening and addressing here this morning. Coach Bob says Carpe Diem to you this morning. He obviously knows you as well. Warm here, says Michael. -6 at our home. Snowing soon. Is that back home, as in back in the US, -6? And Mama Lima, great question for the panel this morning. And I love how you're sitting, Viv and Bob, in your thrones this morning. Good morning.
These are our kitchen chairs. We saw them at a secondhand store and said, yeah, let's have those.
I mean, you really need staff when you've got chairs like that to push them.
We sit there and look at each other and go, are you going to serve me? I'm in this chair. I can't do it.
So we've got Queen Viv and King Bob and with us this morning, and the Frasier of Mindful Migration, James, is with us. Good morning. Tuning in from the East Coast, USA, planning a recon trip, a vacation to Portugal. Is it difficult to socialize for couples who do not drink alcohol? James's picture, I'll go to you first, James, because your picture every Mindful Migration Monday is with you with a super bock in hand, making you look like a proper boozer. It's not necessary, though, is it? Not absolutely necessary in Portugal.
I never thought of it that way before. Because of the reality of my life, I used to make a joke about maybe I need to go to AA because my drinking's gone up 12-fold. I used to have 2 beers a year. Now I have 1 a month. So it's like the math might have been wrong on that. But anyway, I'm not a big alcohol consumer, so I can address this personally. Not an issue at all. Some of the Portuguese people that I have met are a little surprised, because they generally have wine, sometimes beer with their meal. So if I opt not to, they're like, what? And I don't tend to drink anything with a meal, for personal health reasons. I just don't. So it's kind of a surprise to anyone. But alcohol, especially, the one thing that I did learn with the culture is don't toast with an empty glass. So have something in there. I think water will work, or don't toast at all, and that's fine. If you don't have anything to drink, no one's going to go, well, why aren't you toasting with us? But if you toast with an empty glass, they will look at you and, why are you doing that? So just again, culturally, it's not about the alcohol, it's more about the traditions and the culture. So for me, it's not an issue, not consuming alcohol. I don't see that being in any way interfering with your social life.
Well said. Viv, what about that?
No, it's not an issue. I don't drink very much. Neither does Bob. We do drink, but not that much. And there are nights we go out and we just don't want any. So, but there are several people that we know that don't drink at all. Some are recovering alcoholics, and some are they just never have drank, and it's fine. Nobody looks twice. Nobody cares. It's just, if you want it, fine. If you don't, drink water or Coke or whatever you want, and it's great. Yeah, you don't feel odd about it.
Yeah, there's good-natured teasing here and there.
Sometimes there is, but with the older Portuguese, the men especially, they'll poke fun at you and want to know, why don't you drink? What do you mean you don't want a whiskey and Coke at noon?
And when I say I really don't like it that much,
then they say it's just weird.
Yeah,
you're just weird.
It's just I have yet to acquire any taste for beer. I never had any alcohol at all until I was in my 60s, and
I corrupted him.
Actually, my daughter did. She gave us a bottle of wine for our wedding, and it took a year before it ever got open. Yes, it's a legitimate question. I've toasted with water in a wine glass. Absolutely. No worries.
Oh, as it turns out, then we couldn't have had a better panel addressing this for you, Mama Llama, this morning. And I'm reminded of when I told Gilda from EI that I was giving up drinking for a year. I mean, she was visibly shocked. Like,
she gave you the Gilda face.
I had the full-on Gilda face. It's like, why are you doing
what?
She said, isn't that unhealthy?
Yes, that's unhealthy. I think that's unhealthy. And it is a typically Portuguese thing. This is what we love, isn't it? It's like straight up honesty. This is what I think about it. And then when you've made your decision, fine, it's your life. That's how I perceive this matter. It's like,
yes, and an opportunity to laugh. Humor. Find humor in it and making it fun. Like if you're struggling with the language, they're not going to criticize or be angry or whatever. They're just going to have a laugh. It's like, oh, you said that funny. That's honest, but they're not putting you down. They found it humorous, and then we laugh. Yeah.
So they, this is Gilda completely owned her view on it. That that's just weird, Carl. I think it's even unhealthy, but so be it. It's your life. Carry on, and that's the thing, isn't it? It's like once you're over that first response, it's not like my experience of it in the UK, for example, is people want you to drink. They really
keep
do.
pushing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, are you sure you don't want?
Really, man, have a beer. Come on, really? Yeah. What's the matter with you?
Yes, man up, I'll have a drink. So this is the thing maybe that you're referring to, Mama Llama, is that the pressure is not the same. It is in a sense that alcohol is everywhere and it's very much a part of the culture, but it's not literally rammed down your throat. And there are lots of other drinks available, aren't there? As someone who doesn't drink very much, Bob, for example, there are plenty of juices and soft drinks, and the Sumo Laranjo Natural, the freshly squeezed orange juice, perfect, right?
Yeah, well, I had to back off the Sumo Laranja because
in the can, the carbonated one, the soft drink one.
Oh, right.
I had to back off because I was putting on pounds just because I was drinking it because I
all that sugar.
Yeah, all that sugar. But there are plenty of options, and the flavored mineral waters. Now one thing I have acquired a taste for that is mildly alcoholic is the cidra. They're different ciders, and so I enjoy that, but I don't really taste the alcohol type of thing. It's just it's refreshing to me. So, but there are all kinds of options, and we actually will meet with a group of friends frequently on a Friday, and they our Portuguese friend who spoke very good English referred to it as going for drinkies. So we would meet at this bar, and there are several of us there that will often be drinking coffee or water. So it's not a problem. The point is getting together. That's
the main.
That's the
goal
point.
in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You make another really good point there, and thank you, Mama Llama, for asking this question, because it's revealed all sorts of interesting things and reminded us what we love about the culture as well, I think, this morning. But in the UK as well, as my benchmark, it's like the party hasn't started until everyone's drunk. Whereas in Portugal, I noticed that there's a party atmosphere as soon as everyone arrives of the generations, and the drink is just a part of that, not the reason or the requirement. It's just tied up in the whole holistic party festa culture. You don't have to drink. So I hope that comes as a reassurance to you. It's a part of it. It's not the driving force, though, as it is in some other cultures as well.
And one other thing about that is, in the year we've been here, I've never seen anyone publicly drunk ever.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, or they hold their liquor really well. I don't know which, but I've never seen it.
Well, maybe that's the case, because Fiona's saying if tradesmen all got to the jobs when they said they would and remained till the job was done, half the cafes and bars in Portugal would close down in months. Well, that might be a bit hard.
Yeah.
But they are doing something important. They are keeping the economy going. Whilst they're not at your house finishing it off, they are keeping the economy going as well. So that's a very important thing to bear in mind. Thank you, Fiona, for that. Well said, says Copper Dam. It has been an adjustment to let life go by while staying homeless. That's really drastic, isn't it? We've embraced waiting as part of the journey. Well done. Well done. We've got a spare room.
And I had a thought on that too. One of the adjustments that we can make in that goes to things like preventative healthcare. To think preventatively, to think in advance. What can I anticipate? Set it up now, and then if it doesn't happen immediately, it'll still get done in a faster or a more timely way for me. So if I can anticipate things, obviously, if you find a leak in your roof on a really super rainy night, that's, you can't do that. But many things we can say, oh, I'm going to need to address this. I should get on it right now. I'm running into that just finding an accountant. I've contacted 3 different accountants and they're just not getting back to me. It's like, okay, how do I, so I didn't anticipate that. So
yeah,
anticipation, planning ahead.
That's a whole other area, and we will be going into that after our fantastic debut from Raquel on Friday, getting down to business. We will be going more into proactive accountancy and what you need to do over here with Raquel, I'm sure. So, Andy, you were going to call in about the beer festival. Can we hold that to another day? And we do look forward to your video on that, because we're running out of time, and I should know this as soon as we get chatting. We quickly run out of time here on the Good Morning Portugal show in the mornings. And I think it's only right to go to you both in a leisurely way, in a Portuguese way. I mean, both screens, not both people, all of you, for your last words on this. Bringing together these themes of how much we love the Portuguese culture, about unexpected departures, why some people leave, and the decompression, the little bits, not the luggage stuff, but the more subtle things that occur to you. Take as much time as you want, Bob and Viv, on this.
I'll address this a little bit. She mentioned earlier tools. One of the decompression things for Viv, I think, was when I got another hammer and saw and level and drill, and I got some physical tools, because I am very much a hands-on person. But actually, we did one of the things that we did adjust to is Viv needs more different downtime than I do. my downtime actually is activity, a bicycle ride or a hike or climbing a ladder, to check the roof. My downtime is activity, and her downtime is
downtime. Laying prone.
Well,
on a couch with a book.
Consciousness.
And so, because, and part of this goes to, as people that know us know, we've been together 4.5 years, just 5 years since our first date.
Yeah.
And so, so all we wanted to do was be together, and we thoroughly enjoy being together, but we do need different types of spaces. And so that's one thing, particularly with retiring and coming all at the same time. I think she was very happy that in our first location, I had to spend an hour a day cutting wet wood to get it dried out so that we could burn it, because that was our only heat source. But for me, I love doing it. So
he was a happy man with that axe in his hand.
Yeah.
And you'd be surprised, right on 204. And people got used to him being out there chopping wood. People started saying, "You're the guy that's out chopping wood at your house. I'll see you when I drive by."
So
we made lots of Portuguese friends that way.
Yeah, so it is a matter of it wasn't a boundaries thing. It was just a sensitivity thing. To balance is different for who you are or where you are in life. It can shift and it can adjust.
And Bob's a scheduler as well. And I was looking forward to having a more easygoing life of not having to schedule everything to make sure we got everything done. So every day it's like, what are we doing today? It's like, I don't know. Well, what are we need to get this done and this done and this done. It's like, okay, write them down. Yeah. We might get them done and we might not, but
and I'm good with that.
That was an adjustment. Yeah. But once we saw what was important to the other one 24/7, it was fine. You just have to know, and you can't know until you're with them all the time, especially if you haven't been married forever. So.
Very good. Thank you. From a couple's perspective there, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for being here. We're looking forward to your company on a day in the Bay. And of course, people can get in touch with you to get your counsel one-to-one. What's the best way to do that? Is there an easy way to contact you?
Right now, probably email bobandvivpt@gmail.com.
Okay, I'll put that in the chat. Okay, so Bob and Viv, AND.
Yes.
Yeah. No, actually that one is Bob Viv. There is no punctuation. It's just Bob Viv PT.
Okay, at gmail.com.
At gmail.com. Yeah.
Okay, I'll make sure that goes into the chat. And the originator then of this idea, sharing it with us this morning, the decompression idea, so not the full-on wherever you go, there you are, and your luggage becoming your baggage, but these subtle things in life. James, last word to you this morning. Thank you so much for mentioning it and being here.
Oh, my pleasure. I always love being here. I love sharing it with Bob and Viv as well. It's great interaction. So it's funny. I just had an idea, and then I got to paying attention, being in the moment, and then the idea left my head, whatever it was. Didn't feel brilliant to me anyway. So it's like, oh, I had this brilliant idea. No, but the concept of decompression, I think, goes to the idea generally of this ongoing theme of notice, choose, and act, and that when we find ourselves noticing, then we're in a position to do something about it if something needs to be done. So the noticing, for me, with the decompression, is that I'm literally noticing something. I'm noticing I'm in a hurry. Whatever. And then I'll look and say, oh, wait a minute. I'm noticing, why am I in a hurry? So that wakes me up. That's my opportunity to notice. So from there, I can choose, and then I can act. And I think that's a great thread all the way through life, that life is just a constant cycle of noticing, choosing, and acting around and around. And I guess I'll leave it with this. The act of not choosing is really choosing to let your circumstances decide for you. So
That's
you can
profound.
choose consciously, or you can let your circumstances choose. So
what a superb moment to come to some sort of climax, because I realize I've got a couple more dad jokes to share with you all this morning, and it would be not right to not do that. And I know we're getting a bit of feedback. I'm just going to mute you and Bob and Viv up, but we can see the laughter on your faces, if not hear you laughing for this one. So we did that earlier one as a health warning. This is a diarrhea awareness week. Runs from Monday to Friday. No. Why do some couples go to the gym? Here you go. I'm unmuting you for this. Because they want their relationship to work out. That's a Bob and Viv one.
Yeah.
And I asked the librarian where I could find books about paranoia. They're behind you. Okay. Oh, thank you so much for being here. It's always great to see you, Bob and Viv, up in the north. Keep having fun up there, and we look forward to see you again next month. James, have a great day in Eddie said. Have a great week, everybody.
will do. Thank you.
We got a sunset and a nighttime in North Dakota from Gumper Carlos over there in North Dakota. So we'll go out with those today. Thank you so much, all of you.
Ciao, ciao.
Here's a sunset for you. Ciao for now. See you in the morning with Bruce Joffe from Portugal Living Magazine.
In Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings the bell and the members show to the GMP morning show. Featured guests will come and they will blow your mind. The audience will do so in kind. The little vanity mixed with some insanity on the morning show with GMP.
Good morning, Portugal, and I'd like to welcome you to another fantastic day.
Hey, Gumpers.